All right, everyone. I just want to welcome everyone to the SafeSport and Screening session. It'll be led by the host here of characters, Paul Jakubowski, the SafeSport Coordinator, John Dunn, the Executive Director of AHI, Kenny Michaels, the AHI Secretary and Web Tool Administrator, and Laura Johnson, our AHI Registrar as well. We'll be discussing this topic as we go forward. Just a couple of administrative notes for you. The Q&A button down below is available to ask any questions. I will monitor that for the panelists so they can focus on their presentations, and we'll answer those questions as they come. I'm also going to bring all of you that are attending and watching in as a panelist so we can have a better discussion. So as Paul starts the session off, I'll be bringing you in. You'll see a little blip in your screen. Don't worry about it. It'll just bring you into the Zoom, so you'll be able to participate, ask questions live. So if you do have any questions along the way, you'll make sure you're on mute to start. Just pop your video of your screen on or your mute off. We'll see that and we can call on you. You can hit the raise your hand button at the bottom or just speak up and interrupt us and we'll make sure we get those questions answered for you. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Paul Jakubowski to get started with the SafeSport and Screening update. All yours, Paul.
Thanks, Jim. Good morning, everyone. Just to start out here, a little bit of brief background on the two programs. SafeSport was created in a joint effort between the USOPC and USA Hockey and several other NGBs. SafeSport was opened for use by USA Hockey in 2017. SafeSport is a twofold program. It's primarily education for the players, for the coaches, for the administrators, for anyone that's involved with hockey, including the parents, as to pitfalls and issues of social misconduct, if you will, sexual misconduct, bullying, hazing. All of these things occur on and off the ice. And what we try to educate people with is what to look for with various issues under this umbrella. Social grooming, hazing, bullying, any of these issues in the training have been brought up, and it's a professionally scripted and acted educational training video that anybody can take that is a USA Hockey member for free. It's required to be done every year. They have a shorter version of the SafeSport training. It's an update version if you've already taken the original core version, but we have been told that a year from now, they will not have any shorter versions of this training. You will just take the SafeSport training every year in the full version. It is updated every year. It's not a static video. It is changed every year to add or subtract some issues that are necessary to be included. The screening program is entirely separate. As I said, SafeSport is educational training, and there also is the secondary purpose to SafeSport. It gives a platform for people to report issues that they think should be reported: hazing in the locker room, bullying by adults or by other teammates. Any of those aspects can be reported through the SafeSport program. There's a link on the USA Hockey website that you can fill out a SafeSport report and submit it. You can also contact me. I'm the SafeSport coordinator for Illinois. My email and my phone number are on the AHI website. Also, each club is required to have their own SafeSport coordinator. So you can contact whoever it is at your club that is listed as the SafeSport coordinator and make a report through them. Any of those options are doable. whichever one you prefer. They all revert back to me as the SafeSport coordinator in Illinois. And I'll speak a little bit later on as to how the process is done when a SafeSport report is submitted. The screening program, AHI instituted its own screening program in 1998. And that was comprised of a full scan, computer scan of your fingerprints. Ink fingerprints have not been accepted for at least 10 or 15 years by the law enforcement agencies. So we use electronic screening of your fingerprints, and those are submitted to the Illinois State Police, who in turn submitted them to the FBI. Now, because of all the issues, SafeSport issues, if you will, with some of the NGBs, the swimming program, the U.S. gymnastics team, figure skating, Congress, the United States Congress took it upon themselves to step in and try and clear up some of this. So they created and mandated a national screening program that every USA Hockey affiliate, AHI included, has to adhere to. So our AHI screening program was terminated this spring, and now everyone from AHI must be screened through the USA Hockey screening program. And with that, I will turn it over to John Dunn, and he will continue with the new screening program from USA Hockey.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Just to reiterate, sometimes it's very confusing that the screening and the SafeSport are two separate entities, and both are required for all of our volunteers. Are required for the coaches, the officials, and any of the volunteer board members that participate with our athletes. So as Paul mentioned, there is a new screening program in place. It is mandated by the government, and it's been passed down through the United States Olympic Committee, through USA Hockey, down to us. So with that, basically everybody needs to be re-screened no matter when. The only exception would be that if someone was screened last season, that screening will be good until the 2021-22 season. So that is a minor number. For the majority of all us volunteers, officials, and coaches, will need to be re-screened. So each of those screenings in the new system will be good for 2 seasons. All right. It's important to note that it's not a difficult process to do. It is, you basically have to upload your driver's license or some form of identification. It takes about 10 days, and it goes through the system. Now, the NCIS is a different entity than USA Hockey. So the screening goes through the NCIS system, their company. We pay their company. Each new screen is $30. So if you're budgeting for your associations and you pay for your coaches' screenings, every other year, a coach needs to be screened, it's $30. So that's a national price. It's not, it's just a nationally dictated price to all people getting screened across the country. So that screening, again, is good for 2 seasons, but it's important to note that if you are budgeting for those things, that is a new process. And again, that also will go into, Laura will talk about the rosters, and it is a requirement for all coaches, officials, and volunteers that are on rosters specifically. So that new screening is in effect. And if somebody wanted to see if they were certified, you can go, once you go in, you have your own personal ID, you can go in and see that you've been screened, and whether you've been what they call green lighted or red lighted. Green light means everything's okay, you're ready to go. Red light means that there's going to be a process going through that the person that might have had a hit will be contacted through the NCIS, or it'll go on to USA Hockey first, and USA Hockey will make a determination, and it'll go through the system to see if that person will be green lighted or will not be allowed to continue going through the system. That will end up being on the USA website, so that as it transfers there, it will show up for the registrars that the background screening is complete for any of those applicants. Again, the important parts to remember, it's a 2-year screening. It is $30 every time you are screened, and it is a system that is required for certification for any officials, coaches, and volunteers that have contact with our players. So, Laura, I think you're on to the next slide. I'll introduce Laura Johnson. She is the AHI registrar, and she'll talk a little bit about the roster portions of this.
Thank you, John. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us on a beautiful Sunday morning. Hope we provide you with some great information that you find useful. One of the things I want to make sure that was clear is that in order to register to take the NCSI screening, you must have a valid USA Hockey confirmation number. So you are going to have to first register for the 2020-2021 season online at USA Hockey, and then provide that number, not only have it for yourself so that you can enter it into the NCSI when you register to do your background screening, but you also need to provide that USA Hockey confirmation number to your organization's registrar. When the registrar gets that number, they will what we call process it, link it in their registry portal to their specific organization. That allows the member to be placed on rosters. It also allows the registrar to run screening reports so they can see who has a valid screening. So new screening rules. It's anyone over the age of 18. They must be screened. This includes coaches, trainers, managers, board members, locker room monitors, all volunteers. Remember, volunteers can register online with USA Hockey free registration. Coaches, it's a paid registration. Managers, you're considered to be a volunteer. That's a free registration. If you use outside trainers like Athletico, you can check with us to assure that they've been properly screened. They also have to meet this requirement. If it's Athletico, they have assured us that all of their trainers meet this requirement. But if you're using any other outside training service, you need to ask them to provide documentation that they've done their NCSI screening. And I recommend that you have them also register online as a free volunteer, and you process them in your USA Hockey registry. That gives you the documentation to assure that they've met this requirement. Again, if it's Athletico, we've got an agreement with Athletico. You do not need to do it for those trainers. This does not include players that are 18. So if you have players on your teams that are currently 18 and they're only a player, they do not need to be screened at this point in time. But if that player is also a referee or a coach, they will need to be, are required to meet this requirement. They will need to be screened. So it may appear in their profile if they're a coach. If they're referees, it is a separate confirmation number, a separate registration, and a separate profile. All affiliate board members can register at no charge as a volunteer and then provide that information to the registrar. One of the things, could you, Steve, thank you. Okay, so one of the new things that we're implementing with USA Hockey, it's a requirement of USA Hockey, and we're supporting this requirement, is that all your board members must be registered with USA Hockey. They must provide their registration number to the registrar, the organization's registrar, to process through their system. Ken, Michael, and I have worked on a system where the registrars will know what I'm talking about. When you get into your AHI web tool, into your organization page, we've now included a data field that will capture that board member's USA Hockey confirmation number right in the system. So you'll be able to see if they're registered or not. We really are asking you to hop on this right away so that we can get all of our board members of our affiliate organizations into the system. It also allows the registrars to run a screening report. I'm going to go over how to do a screening report and also a SafeSport report when I do my registrar training sessions, which will be occurring over Zoom in August. And those will also be videotaped. So if there's any board leadership from our affiliate members on this call, you'll be able to view those videotapes as well and learn more than you'd ever want to know about how to be a registrar. But for today's purposes, I wanted to make sure that you understand that all board members do need to register and they do need to be screened. Understand that it can take up to 48 hours for the screening to be processed and added to the member's profile in the USA Hockey Registry. The reason I emphasize this is because until they're added to the USA Hockey Registry, if you're trying to add them to a team in the USA Hockey Registry portal as a coach or a manager, they will be what we call grayed out. You will see them, but you can't click on them and add them to a team in the system. So if they tell you they were screened, the issue you're going to have is it takes some time to process. So if they did it in the morning and want to be on the roster for an evening game, it may not happen. Please share that with all of your members so that they understand that they've got to give a little bit of leeway for some of this to process electronically. But again, if they are required to be screened and they have not been screened, you will not be able to add them to a roster. This is new this year because in the past, when we used our AHI vendor, you were still able to add members to a team's roster even though their screening wasn't done. This year that changes. You will no longer be able to add any members to a team roster that have to be screened. If they aren't screened, they will be grayed out and you will not be able to add them to a team. So if you want to find out if somebody is in the AHI screening database to see if they tell you, well, I was screened last year, I would encourage you to go in and double check that. Ken Michael, our administrator for our database, has also worked with USA Hockey to get the data brought from the AHI database into the USA Hockey database so that those members that were screened last year, as John mentioned, it's not a large group, but those that did should come through to the USA Hockey registry, and that screening should be visible in their personnel profile. If you have anyone that says that they were screened, you can check it yourself by going on to the AHI website. This list of screenings will still be available to you. You can go on to ahi.org, go into programs, select screening, and from the drop-down list, it's a simple search. So I would encourage you, if you have members who believe they don't need to have the NCSI screening done for this year's teams, to verify that their thought is correct, that they're actually in our database indicating that. I think I'm going to hand it off to John, unless, are there any questions, Jim, of what we've covered so far?
I don't see any.
Yep.
Okay, then I'm going to hand it over to John to talk about SafeSport.
Great, thanks, Laura. Again, as Paul mentioned at the outset, you know, with the SafeSport rules, it is a requirement. And again, we always get confused. SafeSport and the screening are two separate requirements. So the SafeSport has been around, as Paul mentioned at the beginning, for years now. It is changing. It has gone from every other year to now it's every year. And the program might change, what the information might change, but it will be a program that needs to be completed every year, very similar to coaches modules, etc. So it's any and all adults that are on a youth or a high school, a girls roster need to have that SafeSport training. All right. So, and it's also, and this started last year, all players that are going to be turning 18 during the season. So this year is the 2003 birth year, must complete that SafeSport training to be added to your youth or high school roster. So again, those are important things to remember, as you know, now we have what we might call some downtime. These are great tools that should be completed now, and I would encourage you to get all your volunteers, your coaches, and we say the same thing to the officials, that they should get this done now while it's early, because once things do start, we will start to, it'll possibly snowball very quickly, and you don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball with coaches not certified, et cetera. The other,
Hey, John.
Yep.
John, just a clarification that came through, just to make sure, Safe Sport and screening, the ages are a little bit different on what's required between the two. Just re-emphasize that again.
Correct. So for the screening, it's 18 and above, and the players, it's 18 and above for coaches and officials and any volunteers. It doesn't include the players. It's the coach; those are on the roster. So the Safe Sport does include the players. It also includes officials that would be turning 18 during the season also. So does that clear? I think that should clarify it. The other portion that I was saying is again, getting this done now is very important. And the other emphasis is if you have new coaches coming in, you're starting your training right now, and you have brand new coaches that haven't been on the ice, or you don't know they're brand new level 1 coaches. They need to have these done before they can actually hit the ice. So that is something that you should be aware of, and that's something we should go into a good standing. So again, if they're not completed, as Laura mentioned, they will be grayed out and they won't be able to be added to the team's rosters. All right, and that includes the players. So if a player is getting ready to turn 18 and you're going through tryouts and they have not completed their Safe Sport, they will not be able to be activated on that roster. So just as Paul mentioned at the outset, the Safe Sport training is good for 1 season. So that started this year. I've done mine for this year. It was a good session, and it was very time efficient. So I think it was less than a half hour to go through the whole session. So again, and they'll be changing the content over almost each year, because there will be a core Safe Sport course. And then we had refreshers, which I took this year. And then they'll probably go back to core courses. So they're going to keep it updated, keep it fresh, and keep it in the forefront of what we need to do in our certifications all the time. So it is an important part of what we need to do as administrators for our associations. So again, can't emphasize enough that these types of things are the things that we should be pushing, and you as leaders should be pushing to have your volunteers doing now, so that when you are ready to go, you can go. So the next slide would just be the links, which you can certainly find on the USA Hockey website. Again, to reemphasize with both of them, USA Hockey website is a place to start with both of these programs. And I think that, again, the important part of this is getting it done now, so we're not behind the 8 ball, and when the season really hits its stride. So with that, I think I'm turning it over to you, Paul, or is it back to Laura, right? All right.
Sorry, had on mute myself. Thank you, John.
Hey, Paul, just to
Yeah.
interrupt you, we have a question that came in. Sorry.
Go ahead.
What if you have a senior in high school born in 03 who will not turn 18 until after the regular season is over, for example, in May? Do they still have to do Safe Sport even though they will be off the roster before they turn 18?
I can answer that if you want. Yes, they do, because the way the software is programmed, it only goes by birth year. It doesn't go by the actual birth date. So if they are 2003, even if the season will be over, they will not be able to be placed on the USA Hockey roster until they complete Safe Sport.
Right. And also, just to reemphasize what Laura had talked about before, this is required too for all the board of directors, officers, et cetera. So for an association or a club, whether you're a high school, a youth club, a girls club, these are policies that are required for the board of directors also. So, Paul?
All right, thank you. There was a question that came in saying that they did the NCSI screening a while ago, but they looked on the AHI website screening list, and their name wasn't updated there. The AHI website screening list is only functional for the screening that we did. It's a static entity right now. So it's only the screenings that AHI did. Anyone that has already done the USA Hockey NCSI screening will be listed on the USA Hockey website. Again, the AHI list is now considered old. We use it for a reference, but beyond that, it has no functionality except as a historical reference. So, all right, I'm going to move on. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to move on to the billeting. Part of the SafeSport training and requirements included billeting, and that primarily, and in the beginning, was focused towards junior programs, but more and more at the higher level travel teams, tier 1 especially, and even down to tier 2, some players billet with other families. So they have to follow the SafeSport billeting requirements. Every billet family, the player, the parents, the player's parents shall all sign an agreement that complies with the terms and the conditions of the billet policy, the U.S. Center for SafeSport Code, and the USA Hockey SafeSport Handbook. That's a requirement. So again, if you have any players within your organization that billet with other families, they have to comply with this SafeSport requirement. Additionally, as required by the jurisdiction where the player is billeted, the player's parents shall sign and provide a power of attorney and/or guardianship as necessary by the state of Illinois to the billet family adults to allow them to make emergency medical and schooling decisions. Again, this is a requirement by the SafeSport program policy. Let me go to the next slide, please. The billeting program requirements, again, additionally require each member program. So each club that has any players that are billeted, the club should select a billeting coordinator. And that coordinator is responsible for verifying and ensuring that all of these requirements are met for their billeted players and their billeted families according to the U.S. Center for SafeSport Code and the USA Hockey SafeSport policies. And there's a link here to the SafeSport Handbook. It's about a 37-page document. It's written in layman's terms, so it's not like reading a legal contract. It's easy to understand. We go to the next slide, please. As part of this billeting policy, owners, coaches, team program management, and staff are not allowed to host or billet players. They ask that any minor players are placed with a billet family and may not reside in an apartment or home with other players. Again, this is the difference between the junior players and the youth hockey players. Also, as you can see on the screen, it says they recommend a billet family be a 2-parent home. And again, all the adults in the home must follow the SafeSport requirements for screening and for the SafeSport training program. One more, please. In order to complete the SafeSport requirements, all the adults of the billet family must be members of USA Hockey, and that entitles them to register for the SafeSport program and also get screened through the USA Hockey national screening program. And again, the billet coordinator that is required for the clubs that have billeted players will need to capture all of this information and have it all available and submitted to their club's registrar. I think we're going to go back over to Laura at this point, unless there's any questions.
Yeah, there is one for Laura. So as she comes on, it asks, when can the registrars begin uploading USA Hockey numbers to be able to run screening and SafeSport reports for the 2021 season?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can take their 2020, 2021 USA Hockey confirmation numbers or last year's, the 19 and 21s, and put them into your current USA Hockey registry portal. But you're going to have to process them again when the new 2020, 2021 USA Hockey registry portal is released. We've been told that's going to be released hopefully within the first 2 weeks of July. So if you want to see everyone's status, you can process their confirmation numbers now, either last season's or the next season, but you will have to reprocess the 2020, 2021 confirmation numbers again when you get the new USA Hockey registry portal. Any other questions, Jim?
It's the only one I see. You're good.
Okay, so just to reiterate again, that we've highlighted which staff members for your teams need to meet these requirements, but also your officers and your board members must have these credentials as well. So they must register as a volunteer with USA Hockey. Again, that's a free registration. They must have current SafeSport and they must have current NCSI screening. Now, if for example, your organization president is already a coach in your system, you don't necessarily need to have them register again as a volunteer, because then they'd actually have 2 registrations in the database. We prefer they only have 1 if they're a coach. You can process or add their confirmation number in the USA Hockey web tool. Like I said, there's going to be a new tab where you can enter in confirmation numbers for your officers and board members. And once again, we will be running reports for you on this. So just like you were getting them before, the reports for SafeSport and screening won't mean anything for any other members that are on rosters, because you won't be able to put them on rosters. So there's no reason to give you a report. Everybody has to be in compliance. But I do want to take this opportunity to stress to you how important it is that only those members that are in your system on your rosters should actually be participating with the team. So I know that you can't be everywhere, but it's something you really need to emphasize in your organizations. If they're not current and you can't put them on the roster, they can't think they can just go on the ice and get it done later. They absolutely cannot. If they're not on the roster, they should not be participating with the team on or off the ice. So I think that wraps up this portion, unless there's any questions, Jim.
I don't, if you don't see any, just, I don't know if you want to go over that last slide or not, the SafeSport process.
Yep, we're good. I'm going to add a couple things here. Thank you.
Go ahead, Paul.
Couple things. One of the, I just got a text to remind us to speak about the locker rooms. There's always a requirement to have an adult at all times or 2 adults at all times in the locker rooms. Sometimes that's just not possible with coaches. Some clubs have taken volunteer parents and had them screened and had them take the SafeSport training and use them as designated locker room monitors. But that is something that everyone in the organizations have to recognize, that their locker rooms need to be monitored by adults at all times. Anything that happens in a locker room, the first people that are accused of negligence are the coaches, the organization, and what have you. So that's just something to keep in mind as the locker room monitors. And then I'm going to jump quickly to, before I get into the SafeSport process, the mandatory reporter status. It used to be there was a list of 40 or 50 professions in Illinois, and the state statutes that designated them as mandatory reporters. Now, with the new federal SafeSport Authorization Act. I'm going to read this to you. It's a mandatory reporting of child abuse and child sexual abuse. Pursuant to the SafeSport Authorization Act, any adult that is authorized by USA Hockey, a member of USA Hockey, or any USA Hockey member program to interact with a minor or amateur athlete at a facility or at any event sanctioned by USA Hockey or member program is considered a mandatory reporter. If an adult participant reasonably suspects that an incident or incidents of sexual misconduct has occurred, they must immediately report that incident or incidents to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport and to applicable law enforcement authorities such as DCFS or the local police department. That's a federal requirement. That's not negotiable. It's daunting sometimes, but we need to understand that we need to do the right thing and report whatever we suspect to the authorities. Now, it can be reported to your local club safe sport coordinator. It can be reported to the police. It can be reported to DCFS. And there's venues on the USA Hockey website to report it directly to USA Hockey Safe Sport and also directly to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. Now, the U.S. Center for Safe Sport was created a couple years ago. It is a staff of about 70 plus professionals in this area to investigate sexual misconduct and child abuse safe sport reports. This allowed these kinds of issues to be taken out of the hands of hockey people like us, who in most cases aren't sophisticated enough and educated enough to deal with some of these claims. And it's put in the hands of professionals that know how to deal with this and know exactly what to do in all these cases. So if a Safe Sport report is filed, and now I'm going to go through the filing process. So there's 4 separate ways where a Safe Sport report can be filed by a claimant. Directly to the U.S. Center for Safe Sport. When that happens, the U.S. Center for Safe Sport notifies USA Hockey, and then in turn, USA Hockey notifies the affiliate, which in our case would be AHI. You can also file it directly to USA Hockey Safe Sport using their online form, or you can make a phone call and talk to somebody at USA Hockey or leave a voicemail. In either of those cases, AHI is, if it's from Illinois, AHI is then notified. You can make a report directly to me as the AHI Safe Sport reporter, Safe Sport coordinator. My email and my phone number are on the AHI website, or you can report it to the club or organization Safe Sport coordinator. All 4 of those options ultimately return to AHI, so we have awareness of what allegations were. Now, if these allegations are of child abuse, sexual misconduct, or any egregious act, then they are reported directly to the Center for Safe Sport, and the center decides whether they will exercise their jurisdiction over these allegations. It usually takes them between 24 and 36 hours to decide if it's something that they need to do. And if they do so, then all other investigations cease until the Center for Safe Sport resolves the issue. If they choose not to exercise their jurisdiction, then the investigation reverts back to AHI and we proceed with our process. What happens then is, as the Safe Sport coordinator for AHI, I take any and all of the report and the information and I contact the AHI Rules and Ethics Committee chairman. We forward all that information to the chair, and then the AHI R&E committee is made up of about 7 or 9 people, volunteers, and they do the AHI R&E investigations, and they also do the Safe Sport investigations. So the R&E chair assigns it to one of the committee members. What I do then is I contact the claimant and let them know that we have received the report and that the investigator from AHI, we will give them their name and their email address and say that the investigator will contact them within 24 hours. Now, once the investigator is assigned the case, they contact the claimant. They also contact the president of the organization that the claimant belongs to. And if there's a claim or response or report of involvement between two organizations, then that investigator will contact both clubs' presidents and present them with the evidence and require the organization presidents and their Rules and Ethics Committee to do an investigation using the AHI investigation guidelines. That's about a 15-page document that gives you a protocol and a process to do an investigation. They're required to complete the investigation and have the findings and the facts back to the AHI investigator within 5 business days. That investigation will be then reviewed by the AHI investigator and the AHI R&E committee and by me as the SafeSport coordinator. If everything was done correctly and all the findings and facts are in order, then we will okay that is the final investigation. Now, in some cases, the AHI R&E investigator will also do a separate investigation that might be a little bit more extensive than the clubs. And all of these facts and findings will be compiled and reviewed, and then a decision is made as to what goes on from there. If there's suspensions involved or any resolution that needs to go through other folks, then that is decided at that point. The final thing is, as a SafeSport coordinator for AHI, I will contact the claimant and explain what the resolution was and what the findings were. It's just a follow-up and a closure to the report. Now, most of these don't go smoothly, and we need to ensure the claimant that the process is being followed. Most of the reports that are submitted bypass everything at the local level and even bypass everything at the state level and are filed anonymously on the USA Hockey SafeSport online link. And when that's done, they electronically send it back to me if it's not something that the Center for SafeSport is required to take jurisdiction over. And then we proceed with our investigation here at the local level. I have to say that probably between maybe 75 and 85% of the claims under the SafeSport process are not necessarily SafeSport claims. A lot of them involve Joey's not on the power play and that kind of thing under the auspices of he's being bullied or what have you. So we have to take all of these reports seriously, and we have to do an investigation like we would just for anything else. But there is an avenue that people are abusing this SafeSport process, and as club presidents and club administrators, you need to understand that and maybe ferret some of this out. But again, there's a huge fear of the people that are the claimants that are making these reports that they're going to be blackballed or in some way their player is going to be harmed or singled out. And we have to absolutely ensure that doesn't happen. So there's a link on the bottom of this SafeSport process page that gives you a link to the U.S. Center for SafeSport's investigation process. And again, once they take their jurisdiction, it's out of everyone's hands except law enforcement. And that is the process they followed. So with that, I'm going to turn it back and we can go back to Jim.
Yeah, a couple of questions have come in. One is for the group, I guess, whoever wants to answer it. Do the R&E committee members have to complete SafeSport and background checks?
Yes.
Okay. All right. High school athletic directors have to be added to board of directors lists. They need to also do screening in SafeSport. They usually have to do this through their school as an employee. They also have to complete through USA Hockey again, or will it carry over?
I would say yes. I don't know if Laura and John agree with that.
If the screening and the SafeSport are different vehicles than what is traditionally used in other arenas. So the answer is, if they are on the board of directors, they have to be screened and certified through the USA systems.
Okay. Another question, to be clear, the first report of a possible SafeSport violation is to the club liaison. Is it common for the SafeSport liaison to also be R&E or registrar?
It doesn't have to go to the club liaison. I mean, it can. There's 4 ways to make a report. You can go to the club liaison, and oftentimes that liaison is part of the R&E committee or part of their board of directors. And oftentimes, again, some of these SafeSport reports are about somebody in the organization. So they want to bypass the organization for fear of retribution and what have you, or unfair treatment. So they go up to the state level. The report goes up to the state level initially, or even to USA Hockey initially. It doesn't matter who you report it to. It just needs to be reported. And I also have a text here from a gentleman asking, how soon does law enforcement need to be brought in for a SafeSport infraction? Immediately. If there's something of sexual misconduct or child abuse or anything of that nature, immediately, as soon as humanly possible.
And I think to answer who should be the liaison, I'm not sure it matters what their current role is in your association. Just has to be somebody, right?
Yes.
Good.
And also, just so everyone's aware, all AHI board members are screened and have taken SafeSport training. It's a requirement for us as well. So anybody that is on the AHI Rules and Ethics Committee has already gone through that process and been vetted.
Good. All right. Any other questions from the folks on the line? Let's see if there's, I don't see any on YouTube. All right, I think that's it. Going once.
You know what, I think, actually, I was just asked to make one comment, Jim. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that I was asked to emphasize is that all AHI board employees and contracted providers are registered as USA Hockey volunteers. We've all been screened and we've all taken SafeSport. So it's not just the rules and ethics people, it's everybody who is in a role with AHI. We have all gone through that process. We are all registered and we all meet the SafeSport and screening credentials.
Absolutely. Yep. Any other questions for the group? I don't see any. I think we're good if whoever wants to close it up.
Again, thanks everybody for your time today. The next session generally is high school, so we'll reiterate what was talked about here in that session also. But again, in closing, both of these registrations, the SafeSport and the screening, can be done now. And it's a great time to do that. Register with USA Hockey. Get your coaches, your volunteers, your board to go through these now. It'll save a lot of effort, unnecessary effort when the season really gets going, when your time is very, very valuable for other things. So thanks for your time today, Jimmy. You're all good with questions.
Especially the students. Get your students moving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Paul, Laura, John, for the information. As I mentioned, the next session is at 11:30. It's the high school session. We look forward to seeing those on there that need to be, and hopefully have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.